we are going to do an Alberta Provincial's breakdown. Alright, so this is the first time I shot this match. The hit factors on the stages are very low, so you're going to see me shoot pretty conservatively on a lot of these stages. I think there's like one or two stages that had a 7 or a 9 factor, and most of the rest were hovering around 5. So the 5 factor, every Charlie costs you 0.4. So you're going to see me shooting pretty carefully on most of these stages, which might seem why I'm being a little bit conservative. But beyond that, there's some problems I'd like to talk about. So we will have a look as we go through.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Alright, so you see that was pretty measured, but we'll look at this again from the start.
Bye.
The shooting here is good. I think I had 2 Charlie, and I'm pretty sure they were on these longer targets that I'm shooting at off screen over here. Good aggressive shooting here. A part of my goal, if you didn't nail this positioning on these first 2 spots, you're kind of screwed. I really don't like how I end up with this really narrow base. My plan was to kind of end up with my feet facing more this way and then basically drag a foot back as I go to address this plate, and that just doesn't happen. So I end up with a really narrow base here. So I do a good job of getting my eye well ahead of the gun so I can watch it come into this plate. But then when I go to cross over and do this transition over to here, and then of course leave this position, I don't have a whole lot of power to make it happen. The good thing is I'm pretty much stuck doing more or less a standing load. I need to get my left foot to this next buckle, give or take, to free up this next position. With this 5 or 6 shots or whatever. So this doesn't affect me that badly, apart from the fact that these 2 transitions to this plate and then to the next paper are pretty powerless and slow. Little messy reload right there. And I'm never afraid to really look for results, like make sure that I see a good lift, hear a hit, and like make sure I actually see the impact where I want it on this type of thing. Because if you don't like get good hits in these steel, you're just going to eat it. I don't want to just like think that I get a good hit and then do the steel dance by taking off immediately. When I engaged the second one, at the moment I broke the shot, I only had about half a plate, so I really was not sure that I was going to go. So I want to see this drop before I go, and you see there's a pretty pronounced delay here before I continue. A little bit of reactive shooting on these pretty easy paper over here, and again, that's like more careful than it needs to be. I will say it's not super obvious watching these types of videos, but I was fighting with my grip a little bit through most of this match. I end up putting like regular grip tape that's more similar to what I'm used to on the gun right before the match. But during class all week, I was running it bare, and I was having a pretty tough time keeping enough traction on it to keep my sport hand doing enough work. So I'm kind of accommodating that as I go through the match, and there's definitely moments where you can see it does not work to its full potential, and I'll be addressing those, particularly when we look at the first-person video. The second stage, probably the most intimidating stage of the match.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Okay, so look at this again from the beginning. The biggest issue here is that I had, I think, mathed out. I think I had seven Charlies, either 5. I think 5 Charlies and a Delta, and one of that was I had a Charlie Delta on the swinger here. So see, very careful shooting in this beginning section because there's some tougher shooting and some activators later on, especially this swinger. It's an over-the-top swinger that I intended to try to shoot two shots in one pass. There's a good chance I'm not going to double out for that right from the beginning, so I can get these easy points. I'm going to harvest them pretty carefully. And I have 1 Charlie on one of those targets, basically in this stall right here. You might be able to see it, you might not. But basically I have like a target, 2 targets that are crooked, like one here, one kind of here. So the actual shoot zones, it wasn't super obvious where they were, and it required a lot of spot focus. 1 Charlie on that. I think another one on this open target here. And then this is one of the most disappointing sections of the stage. You can't really 100% see what's going on, but basically, as I'm looking at it, I have activator, steel, over the top swinger, and a partial off to the left. And the plan is, of course, to stop right here, engage this open target off to the left, and do a wide transition to this position, and shoot activator, steal, swinger, partial, and not have to like really stop except to shoot this partial on the far left. And I double miss on this activator, putting 2 shots over the top, I believe because I'm shooting out of the notch. What I mean by that is if this is my rear sight, let me scratch that. If this is my rear sight, right, basically I have the sight like way up high like this because I want to see more of that color than I really need to hit the target. This is like a subconscious tendency that we have when we do a lot of target focus shooting. And so I was putting shots right over the top. And so I have 2 pickups here. That kind of kills my momentum. And that caused me about 3/4 of a second. Had a Charlie on this target as I basically dragged the shot off to the right when I go to do this step. And then try to hit this activator really early so that I could finish that array as soon as possible, because it was kind of a fixed time element waiting for this activator. I didn't quite think I had time to go activator, steal, low target, dropper. But there's a few places with a lot of lost time here, just with silly small mistakes, not being quite disciplined enough on the steal, stuff like that, and combined with a lot of drop raw points. This is not what I would call a good run necessarily, and it's on the biggest, most valuable stage of the day. So this was a bit frustrating. Definitely lots of room for improvement. Interesting strategy on this one. Let's take a look. Unloaded start, of course. All the barrels are on the table, or all the mags are on the barrels. Again, low factor stage. We're shooting very carefully where I have to lock down raw points and the easy stuff. Coming around this corner, check the strategy. Reload, grab another. Reload out of hand. And I definitely had, my firing hand was a little bit tight. So shooting single-handed like this, you have to grip the gun basically as hard as you can, front to back, to make it so the gun doesn't buck all over and you can collect good points. I had 1 Charlie on the second target, which I shot probably a little bit stupidly aggressively if you listen to it. That's not really necessary for what I'm trying to do. And the very next target I shoot is a half cover partial, and I did the same thing where the first shot went low, and the final shot I dragged off to the right. So even with 3 shots, I still had a Charlie on it. And then you can hear I have 3 burner targets down low, like in this section down here, and you can hear the aggression is not really present. So you definitely tell there's some firing hand tension problems going on there. So again, more small issues on an overall a decent execution. Only 2 Charlies in the stage, which is good for a low factor stage, but neither were necessary, and I did have the extra shot, so really it's more like 3 Charlies. More meat on the bone here, more stuff to work on, especially when you start running around and putting objects between you and the target. We can see that spot focus is deteriorating a little bit, and definitely the firing hand is becoming a problem in some of these positions. Good thing with the strategy in the last stage is I did get to practice the one-handed shooting, so that's pretty much necessary on this. I was able to basically dig my knee into this wall to create stability, and then get this rope behind me so that I could maintain one-handed shooting through this section. That's a perfectly fine performance. 1 extra shot on this target back here. When I basically got into this position initially, I was still kind of wobbling a little bit, and you can see that in my foot right there. Basically, if this is the A zone, my sight was like tracking all the way across it, and the first shot was kind of just a speculative investment to see like how the gun was going to behave in this really awkward position. So I cracked, I think, 1 extra just to make sure I had all the points. This stage was 1 on each, and I knew it's 12 rounds. I knew it would be about 12 to 14 seconds, so I knew again it would be at or below a 5 factor because it's 1 on each. You have to go up into this little alley right here to trigger this laser box that's going to drop down the targets behind this red window. So again, very careful shooting will be seen here. I did this exact mistake, like not quite nailing this grip position. Every time I did this, when I walked the stage, I ended up with the same problem where my hand was kind of in the wrong place of the gun and I had a bad grip off the draw. So I'm going to shoot just that 1 target from up there that I have to, and I'll finish up the rest from this alcove over here. And possible that I prioritize getting into this position a little bit too much rather than being ready to shoot. You can see as I cross this corner, I can see this target pretty fully, and I'm not really ready to shoot at it in any way. But you did have to get in this really particular position to get at the target that's behind this man in the gray shirt right here. So I was about 2 seconds behind the time on this stage, but I also know I took a different strategy than any of the guys that put up better times than me. Possible that the strategy was a little bit lacking here. This was a pretty big, pretty intimidating stage with a bunch of steel, which was the big decider on it.
Stand by.
So the big focus is just to see black bar and knock down these steels, right? So crappy draw there with that firing hand tension, which I'm still working through. When I say black bar, what I mean is, grab a blank surface here. Basically, if this is your rear sight, right? So we have this big notch, and we have this. This is your front sight. Essentially, you know, if this is you have a fiber here. Let me start over. If this is your front sight, right? We have this fiber here. We have this little material, bar of material right here, that sits kind of on top of your fiber, which I refer to as the black bar. Basically, I'm going to maintain full spot focus, full target focus, and rather than just using the color, I'm going to use that little bar of material as the aiming device, and that's going to call my attention to the vertical alignment of the front sight and the rear notch very well, without having to look back at my sights in depth. Right, so it takes a little bit longer to see that much detail, but because of that, you're going to get a lot more precision out of it just by being aware of the actual notch alignment or the post alignment in the notch, and it'll generally get more precision out of it. So for shooting at steel, especially when they're small and far and they're great in numbers, this is the type what I'm going to be responding to visually in order to get these points like I want to the first time. Same thing on all these targets in this section over here, shooting that the same way. I want to see black bar on every single one. Just react to seeing it stop exactly where I want the shot to go. This is kind of an intimidating activator for people. I didn't choose to get spicy. The activator was the plate on the far left. Some people shot these kind of in a wacky order to try to time this and cut time off of this. I wasn't really super afraid to try to maximize the time, so you can see I have to wait for a second for this to come out. But because of that, I was able to wait until I saw the full A zone and basically plan to take a shot right here, and then I was able to lock down 2 alpha on it, which to me was a bigger priority. So I had, I think, 1 Charlie, 1 Delta on this stage. The Delta was right here. The second shot I pushed off to the right side, and you can kind of see the gun trends over that way as I do it. I'm imagining that's my support hand throttling pressure a little bit on the gun. And then the Charlie was the first shot on this target. You can see is a little bit wide off to the right side. And I'm kind of watching my work pretty carefully on that second shot to make sure it goes better. I ended up getting killed on this stage because I didn't realize I had the wrong plan. But the plan that I chose, I executed decently well. Basically, you got to slide this door kind of to either side to free up whichever side of the window you're working on. The timing worked perfectly the way that I did it.
Bye.
Rip this to the left. Open target. Second swing on this partial. You know, make sure you bump your muzzle on the door just for good measure. And then shoot 2 good shots in this tuxedo. And then just maintain discipline across these 3 steel, which are easy to hit, but you don't want to be stupid and shoot extras or dip it into the no-shoot. So, of course, more confirmation than we really, strictly speaking, need there, but I just want to be smart. On this stage, we again see this this grip problems kind of rearing its head a bit.
Are you ready? Stand by.
So first shot goes a little bit right. I have to work through these 2 targets over here, kind of shooting on the move. And we had 2 pickup shots in basically the first position, right? So that's already up around 3/4 of a second, probably lost. Backstory here: I saw 3 people either actually get boned or nearly get boned by this popper. So my plan was to hit it twice. First shot, I shot over the top. Basically, again, hard target focus on this target. I think it went high over, trying to shoot out of the notch like I talked about a minute ago. So I end up shooting 3 shots of this, which is fine because I have the extra, but it's annoying again. Now we're at like a second to 10, second and a quarter loss just in shots on steel. And I think considering this 1 Charlie I believe I had on this target dragging off in this direction towards the close target, I think, and then, the 3 extra shots on steel, so we're at like probably 3 or 4 Charlies in the stage, but overall a relatively clean performance. Definitely could be a lot better. Nothing to write home about there. On this stage, we see some really, really, really ugly grip problems going on. So let's watch the gun behavior. Already disgusted, right? So we see basically, watch how the gun behaves. The gun sight lifts, it torques up to the right, way down around to the left. On that shot, same exact thing on the second shot. The gun torques up, down, recovers left of center. Deep in lean here. Over transition, number 1. Basically leaning into this more, but I'm not leading this action with my eyes at all. What I should be doing is leaning deep enough to see both of these so that I can just look and bring the gun over, rather than doing all this correcting to get the gun to the right spot. Again, the gun torques up and then flicks back left. Transitions are clean through these 2 targets. Come back over here and watch the gun again. We see lift, snaps left, lift, snaps up and left, and then basically the gun lefts way, way high because I'm relaxing the grip here. Coming over to this spot, again, watching the behavior of the gun. Gets marginally better for a second. More uniform there. And then in this low port, what happens frequently is it's very, very hard to not tense your firing hand on the gun, because you're inclined to, just grip the gun hard with both hands. And we see this gun behavior gets even worse than it was before in this compromised position. Not good hits in this stage. I believe I had a Charlie Delta on this partial back here. I'm pretty sure I had if I recall correctly, I had a Delta on it. Not impressed with this. Not impressed with this. This is a very high factor stage where you're not going to be punished for raw points all that much, but that is irrelevant to me. The point is that there's not a single target on this stage that's not easy to lock down points on. So that's what should be happening. Here we see another stage where my big priority is getting points, but because of strange grip problems with just my firing hand being chronically tense on the gun, we see a lot of just hitchy crap when it comes to not aggressively engaging close targets. So the draw target will be the very first target would be a huge indicator of what we see when we see this. Gun comes up, it dips, and it shoots. And we're going to see more and more of this over-transitioning behavior too, where basically you see the gun comes over and it elastics back to center before the shot goes. Over-transition right there. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. Let's watch that again, very slow. So watch what the sight does. Comes over to about the delta and then swings back in order to get that shot where it needs to be. Apply the discipline here, right? And in every case, I'm doing an okay job of allowing the sight to come where it needs to be before I'm shooting, but I'm eating about a half attempt on every one of those over transitions. So right now we're at 2 or 3. Four, 5. Again, let's watch this, just make sure we're on the same page. Gun comes over, way off the right side, and then it comes back. Again, you can see my head is leading this, but again, what you can't see here is that my feet are, again, very base narrow. My hips are pointed this way, so I'm having to really reach to make this happen. Look at this over transition. Womp, womp. Every one of those is a half a tenth to a tenth. I think we're at 4, 5. Six of those. So something like 3/4 of a second to a whole second lost time potential just by not being relaxed, trying to force this motion to happen with the body, not allowing my vision to snap ahead and just let my body comply from that point, trying to drive it ahead with my core and my legs to get the gun out ahead. Transitions really, they're not about how fast you can get the gun from point A to point B. It's about how fast you can shoot, how efficiently the gun leaves from point A and how fast you're able to shoot once it gets to point B. And that is done by having your vision be very fast and precise and aggressive. and that is simply not happening here, and we're losing piles of time. The stage was cool. These air pads here, you stepped on it, and it would basically reveal targets that shoot up on either side. So my big concern was on getting my foot on this pad as fast as possible, because there was a considerable delay before the targets would show up. So rather than even prioritizing hitting the targets I can see when I'm getting there, I'm trying to reach deep to get my feet on these pads like as quick as I can, because it's functionally a part-time stage until those targets show up.
Are you ready? Stand by. If you're finished unloading.
That was a pretty sporty run on the whole. I had this target over here, this one. I over transitioned to it, so the first shot went a little bit right. You can see kind of like the gun shows up and it never really stops, it just shoots, and the second two shots were alphas. So that probably barely helped my score to shoot the extra shots. But the real issue is that I'm not just leading the action with my eyes. It's not, retroactively should I or should not have not shot extras. The problem is that I did not just call the shot here and look to where that was going to go and allow the gun to come there. Is that I forced the gun over and the gun went too far. I believe this was the last stage of the match. You could see some of this stuff in the middle moving. I think that was kind of how the stage was laid out to be. You could be aggressive and shoot some stuff moving. I basically chose to make this into two positions, where I'm standing right now, and then this spot over here just to get these two targets that are kind of hidden off screen right. So I'm going to draw, take a deep lean, shoot super responsible across these three plates, shoot two really good lifts off this partial, and then just boogie over to this spot. Again, last stage of the match, all I'm looking to do is lock down really good points, not give it away. So you see pretty careful shooting there. We see another slightly bobbled reload that gives me a moderate delay getting my grip built, so there's a little bit of hesitation, like when to start shooting on this target. But overall, this is what I would describe as a par performance, just still with really the gun that is not behaving appropriately in my estimation. But I'm working with the conformations in a manner that's making it work out just fine.